All right, and welcome everyone to the Ginette Biro Podcast. I'm Ginette Biro, and thank you as always for joining me on the show as we dive into concepts of exploring consciousness. And today we are really diving into what for some may be really stretching the mind in terms of the concept of timelines. And for others of you that have been following my podcast for a while, you'll be like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. So wherever this lands for you, I encourage you to just really have an open mind with it, and it really may start to make sense. And I'm going to explain why that is. Spirit put this all together for me this morning, so I'm really excited to share it with you guys. So the first thing they wanted to talk about is the fact that not only are we experiencing chaos energy as a collective right now because of the things happening on the planet. As you all can observe very easily, there are lots of things changing, morphing, crumbling, coming to the surface. That's a lot of change energy. And that's a lot to take in on one level alone if we looked at that on a single platform, all of that on one single platform. If you add layers of several platforms in which each of those things can affect something differently depending which platform you view it from, then you can see how the variability of confusion can be that much more. So the reason why we are feeling so much of this is because we as a collective have been getting more and more psychic, more and more open to feeling things beyond the regular five senses. This is really exciting. And what I find really interesting is that this is even being supported now in the scientific community. More scientists are starting to step into trying to understand concepts of being empaths, which is being clairsentient, which is being able to feel more deeply the environment around you, people around you, the energy of certain things, topics, dates, ideas. You can feel into it more deeply than just thinking about it. And so scientists are studying empath traits and psychic abilities. And with these concepts of psychic skills reaching the scientific community, that's starting to create a bridge. And this is what's really exciting, because if we go back into the ancient times of the Golden Age, and if we use the Golden Age of Egypt, or even if we go way past that to the times of Atlantis and Lemuria, when it was balanced harmony between science and spirituality, left and right brain. And so what's happening is these layers where scientists are starting to bring forward the value of understanding psychic traits, traits such as being empaths. They're creating these bridges. And the more we create these bridges, the more we're going to bring back this balance and harmony of the two sides versus one side against the other side, or them being divided by this huge crevasse. So this is really exciting. Now, because these bridges are being built, what that does is then that sends out this energetic template, and I've been talking a ton about templates lately, of open-mindedness, of this being possible. Something that seemed outlandish or not possible is suddenly becoming, it's kind of merging itself into the realm of possibility, which makes people more open-minded. You see how this all kind of connects together. So the more that this is talked about, the more that this is embraced, it creates a greater ripple effect. And we talk about ripples all the time. So scientists studying these ideas means a greater ripple effect of open-mindedness, which we are seeing on the planet. And it's coming from both sides. More people waking up are helping more scientists become more open-minded to studying these concepts. And when these concepts come out in a study, it then allows more people to look at this and think, oh, maybe there's something to this. So then those people become more open-minded, and you can see how it grows. And I'm using scientists just as one example, but it's a really great 3D current example right now. I just read an article not that long ago of exactly this. Scientists did a study about hypersensitive people and those that are considered empaths to understand it better, and they found hard evidence of it and value and how it affects people in the interactions in their environment. It was beautiful to read from my perspective. And so I thought that was really interesting. And so when I read that, that's when Spirit started to come in and say, hey, this is bigger than you think. This isn't just validation in one form, but this is part of these ripples and these bridges that I just explained to you. So we have these understandings and these chaos energies that are happening. And we have this opening in consciousness, right, that I just explained. Well, this opening of consciousness, though, now makes the collective of humanity more aware to the energetics at play, right? So remember how I was saying we have a lot of stuff on our plate in 3D right now. If we add more layers to that of higher dimensional consciousness in view of that, we're then also getting in touch with different timelines, different potentialities at play at one time. Normally, if we're just in 3D, we are simply in the 3D timeline. But when we start to open up to 4D and 5D and 6D and so on, we're starting to open up to different timelines, meaning way more potentials at play. And so when you think of the speed at which the world has been changing since 2020 is very rapid. And then if we are opening up also to these higher potential timelines, the amount of change that we can experience energetically, even within a single day, is a lot. And that's what Spirit's wanting to talk about, because in those, you may feel like there's a day or two or maybe a week where you feel like everything's really aligning and it's making a lot of sense. But then all of a sudden, all of your plans go completely out the window, several things fall apart, and you're like, what just happened and how? I had been working for this long to make this happen. It was all there. It was a go, and now it just was taken away, or poof, it's gone out of thin air. Like, how is that possible? That's usually when we click into a different frequency of a timeline. And so, as interesting but also frustrating as that is, there is so much movement that not even those timelines that we click into then become permanent. And that's the biggest thing right now. Nothing is permanent right now. We are so in this sliding scale right now of which one it's going to click into. There's no way for us to know what something is until it is. And that's even the case of deaths for some people right now too. Something is not a thing until it is physically a thing in 3D. So Spirit is saying this because, oh yeah, one other visual they gave me here is they said it's kind of like you could picture it this way, either like flipping through a catalog. If you think of those old Sears catalogs or Bay catalogs that I know my mom always had, you're flipping through a catalog, and sometimes when you're flipping the pages, it's like one page at a time goes by, but sometimes like several pages kind of chunk by. That's when you really jump a timeline. And that's when something happens, like I said, where all of these things suddenly change and you're like, what? What was that? You didn't just shift over one page or one timeline, you shifted over several, which is why what seems to be happening all of a sudden seems so jarring and totally out of left field. It's because it jumped over to a different timeline. Now, another way they said to explain it is the amount of potentiality that's up in the air right now is if you took like a deck of cards and you threw them up into the air, whichever cards are going to land facing up or facing down is going to change every time they get thrown up in the air. And so every time we have a significant event like the equinox, also the full moon that we had was a really significant glitch point. The full moon we had in Pisces, the harvest moon, when was that? September 20th. That was another glitch point where we shifted several pages, or they threw the cards up in the air yet again. Some fell in the same ways and some fell in totally different ways. And they're saying, even if they fall, that is not necessarily permanent right now, because from now till the end of the year, things are still up and changing constantly. And the reason why this is getting faster and faster, these changes, even these timeline changes, is because we have a ton of planets that move forward in October, meaning they're no longer retrograde, they are direct. So there's a lot of forward movement happening. There's a lot of things gearing up to that forward movement, but with that forward movement happening, that means events, insights, ascension, awakening, all of those things are going to be happening faster, meaning we're more in tune to these higher variables. So I'm trying to explain this as best as I can, because it's like when you see something in your brain, you can understand it, but sometimes to put it into words is really confusing. But it's worth being said right now. And it's worth being said because This chaos energy that we're feeling, both in 3D world that we see, but also in the energetic world, makes it really hard to predict stuff right now. It makes it really hard to know what is coming or even feel into what is coming. And that's why Spirit keeps saying the best thing you can do in this position is to know yourself. Stand back, step back, return to self, figure out who you are, where your safe space is, and observe the world from that point. That way you don't have to get caught up in the mix until things literally fall and become permanent. Until something is permanent in a change, be willing for things to be uprooted. It's really, there's so many shifting potentials right now. And they said this is somewhat par for the course. Is that how you say it? For where we are in this reality and in this stage of ascension. It's because we are constantly creating templates as we move and make choices, both individually and collective. Those ripples again, those ripples, like the scientists, of choosing to study these things, make energetic templates of possibility, right? When they put out a study saying this is possible, those that are very left brain read that, and suddenly there's a new template for them of, well, that's tangible. So maybe this is possible. There you go, new template, which then ripples out. So because we're changing so fast, we're creating these new templates, which are new. Some are going to work really well and some won't. So it's just this really high energetic traffic time of shifting and changing. So like I said, Spirit is saying really kind of step back when you need, recalibrate with self, because self is going to be your safe space. And it is, if it isn't yet, that's something for you to really be able to work on, is how do you create you to be your safe space? What does that look like? What do you need that to be? Do you need more joy in your life? Do you need more grounding, more peace, more quiet time, or more social time? Whatever that is, creating that space for self is going to be really important. And then again, really remembering to release the things that you can't control outside of you. Things are going to shift. Oh yes, and that's the other thing they were saying, is with this shifting and not holding on to something until it's permanent, is also get in touch with what you feel about a situation. Because they were saying too, in connection to all this, in order to help maneuver it without just simply only letting go, is really recognizing discernment. So discernment is knowing what's true and what's not, feeling what it is, feeling the validity of something. And so as we're moving through these timelines, also through these 3D changes, there are a lot of illusions at play. Some of them are illusions of what we see. Some of them are illusions of a timeline we may be in. But the way to maneuver those is always come back to, what do you feel about this situation? So if you are seeing something unfolding, say in government, right? And you're like, I don't like what I see. Feel into, what do you feel about this situation, or what do you feel you can do about this, or trust the feeling of it, because something may not look right, but when you feel into it, you're like, wait, something about that feels okay. I don't understand how, but something about that feels okay. And what that may be is Spirit in a way saying energetically, I know this looks bad, but trust me, we got this. We have a plan. That could be what the energy is telling you. Another thing could be is, say you get an offer for a job and everything on paper looks great and your brain is like, yep, checks all the boxes. But inside you're like, I don't know, something doesn't feel right about it. As long as your feeling isn't based on fear, you're not doing something because of fear or not doing something because of fear. If you're doing something because you checked in with your energy and your energy is saying yes or no, then follow the energy. We will be moving through phases of illusion right now as well, which requires us to practice discernment through all of these changes. So those are lots of things to think about, right? We have this change and this rising in consciousness, which allows us to see different levels. We also have the speed of change happening more rapidly as we hit each month, because we even have the planets aligned with it. And with that, that creates more illusion. So we have to be able to touch that center part of our souls to come back to what we feel is truth, to try and follow that flow. So I know that's a lot to digest, and I know that's a lot I say, I'm like, it's a lot easier said than done. That wasn't easy to say because it's hard to break it down in language so that it makes sense. But hopefully there's enough in there for you guys to be able to kind of chew on it for a little bit and see how that applies to you. Again, things are changing in ways that we can't fully fathom yet, both in what we believe to be real and in what's going to manifest into permanence in 3D. So really stay open-minded, ground yourself when you can, step back, find your center when you need, and really work on the perspective of your reality moving forward. So I'm going to leave you guys with that. That's quite a doozy of insights. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, absolutely. And I would also encourage you guys, if you want more insights on this stuff, do check out Spirit Coffee Talk with myself and Lisa Richmond and Elise Cathry, all of Avalon Spirit. We dive into weekly topics of all kinds of things going on. We have talked about the glitches and timelines. We will continue to, I'm sure. There's lots of goodness on there. So check that out on YouTube, the Avalon Spirit YouTube. As well, check out avalonspirit.com for tons of course offerings, insights, personal journey guides to help you guys on your journey, from Akashic record readings to animal healings, astrology, past life, higher self readings. There's tons of goodness on there. And if you are enjoying this, please do subscribe and share. I'm so grateful for you guys. I love sharing the bits that I get from Spirit, and I will continue to bring it through with the best clarity that I can. So I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will be back.